Good afternoon, everybody. It's Jim and it's Matt, and we're here. And it says everything football, but Matt and I are baseball guys too. And so, Matthew, winter meetings in Orlando, they're going to wrap up tomorrow. So, we got half a day left here now and a full day tomorrow before people start heading out of town. Um, Big headlines today: the Phillies and the Dodgers. Why don't you fill us in?
Yeah, so the Phillies have inked a deal with Kyle Schwarber, bringing him back to Philadelphia. I think it was what was it, 5 years?
5 years, 150.
5 years, 150. Okay, that's what I thought it was. I was going back to look. 5 years, 150. Listen, there was a lot of smoke about the potential destinations that Kyle Schwarber could go to, but I think there was always going to be a mutual interest in returning to Philadelphia between both him and Dave Dombrowski. Um,
Hmm.
Schwarber's a guy that's really endeared himself to that city during his time there. And when you look at the offensive production that he's put out, it, it's special in the sense that you're not going to go find another guy that can hit 50 home runs. He's a little bit more up there in age in reference to some of these other
Right.
guys. Was he 34 now?
Yeah.
Um, he's really only going to DH, but you're paying $30 million for a guy that has that's probably not going to hit. I don't think he's going to hit any less than 35 home runs a year over the next 5 years in Philadelphia. Like, he's gotten better as a home run hitter in over the years, and so in terms of that, you just are not going to find power like that on the open market all that often. And so when they have it, they need to keep it, and that's exactly what Dave Dombrowski did with the Phillies. And then the Dodgers made the other big move. That's a team that I'm sure people are tired of hearing about when they made a big move. But if they're going to make a big move, this is where you want to see them make it, and that's the bullpen. They signed Edwin Diaz today. I did not see any numbers on that one.
The deal is pending,
Mhm.
um, and what basically all that means is the physical,
Yeah.
um, and that's not an uncommon thing with
Mhm.
regard to especially relief pitchers.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, so if you're going to invest, which I assume the Dodgers are, a significant amount of money in Mr. Diaz, they want to make sure that arm is not going to fall off halfway through the season.
Yeah.
So we'll get that probably in the next 48 hours because technically it's not a deal until the physical situation goes.
Mhm.
So that's where we are there. So it's a deal in principle to be sure.
Yeah. And I said that's a deal you want to see them make. It's really a deal you want to see the Dodgers make if you're not a Dodgers fan.
Hmm.
They sunk a lot of money into that bullpen in the offseason. Um, Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott, two big time acquisitions they had. I think they had another one in there as well. Maybe it was them. I think they brought back, like, what was it, Blake Trinan
Yeah,
potentially?
Blake Trinan is Blake is one of those guys that you want on your team because a he's good in the clubhouse.
Hmm.
B, he's a very smart pitcher,
Yeah.
and he doesn't have the triple digit fastball anymore. But like you grew up watching some of those great Braves pitchers, right?
Hmm.
And they were masters at painting. They could get the corners and do that, and that's what Blake does. Blake throws like five pitches, and he's got good command of all of them.
Hmm.
So there's nothing not to like about Blake Trinan.
Yeah. So they went out and they invested heavily in that bullpen. It was still the weakness I think a lot of people
Hmm.
pointed to in their run throughout the playoffs. Now, the counter argument to that is going to be, well, they still won. They won, the World Series,
Hmm.
and they had that deficiency in the back end of their bullpen.
Right.
Um, that's kind of up for debate, but it's an area that was weak for them, and they addressed it again. Like, it's hard
Mhm.
to fault the Dodgers for as upset as people will get for spending the money they have. They view this team as an investment, and when they put more into it, they typically get more out. They've done this from an investment side, but what they've done in the clubhouse is also a big reason why guys sign. Like, these guys are taking some a lot of them have taken some discounts in
Mhm.
certain ways to be with the Dodgers because they like the way the clubhouse is there and they know how to win baseball games. So, call it ring chasing, call it roster stacking, what have you. The matter of the fact is that the Dodgers are pretty much the place to be right now, and they're typically willing to pay you to be there as well.
You know, um, a guy who I've worked with and I greatly respect and actually can call him a friend is a guy who helped John Sherholtz build that Braves dynasty. And, it's Stan Kasten. And
Mm-hmm.
Stan is out in Los Angeles along with Andrew Friedman, who was the architect of the early Tampa Bay Rays teams about how you develop players and in the system. So as crazy as it sounds, the Dodgers can do two things at once, which is they can buy pieces to the puzzle, while
Mm-hmm.
at the same time continually developing pay, quality players in the in the minor leagues. Almost said portal, because we've been so portal focused these past few days. But
Yeah.
I mean, that combination just doesn't happen. And you know, we were joking, talking about the importance of the clubhouse. Um, One of the most interesting things in the off season in Los Angeles was the Dodgers spent $14 million renovating the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Their clubhouse and the opposing clubhouse, you know, at Dodger Stadium, they have cafeteria, they have swimming pools, they have it. It's like it. You can go to YouTube and pull it up anytime you want to, but when you're a player and you see that the dedication that the team is making, not just to you as a player, but to you as a giving you creature comforts like TVs to watch, Xboxes to play games with, things, places to play cards when you just feel like it. What has built the Dodgers is a family. They
Mm-hmm.
feel like a family. And you and I are talking in the pre-show about the fact that the wives and the girlfriends and everybody is part of that family. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you've got Freddie Freeman, who many of you remember from the Braves. Um, Freddie Freeman's son has a locker next to his dad's.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
that's the kind of buy-in. It's not. It's a culture, right?
mm-hmm.
It's a culture. When your Red Sox, were getting ready to break through the barrier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was the great culture which Doc Roberts, the manager of the Dodgers, bought into, which
Mm-hmm.
is it was us against the world, right?
Yep.
And so that kind of culture that Theo Epstein created in Boston was a family culture, a team culture. You cannot win with 25 independent contractors,
Nope.
and it doesn't matter how much money you spend. Steve Cohen will tell you that you can't buy chemistry.
Yep. Uh, and that's the biggest sticking point in this argument about when the baseball lockout feels like is inevitable at this point, is going to happen. It's they point to the Dodgers as this big problem. It's not the Dodgers themselves that are the big problem. Your problem is going to be on the back end. I have no problems with the idea of a cap floor. What I don't love is a cap ceiling. Um, you know, it just feels like it's at that point you're kind of impeding on what the players have had for a while, in terms of the money. And I know people will get though like every time a big free agent when Juan Soto signed last year, I think I was sitting around with my dad and I told him what the years were and what the money was, and he just goes, "That's ridiculous." And it is, but this is also the way that baseball has been forever. And these guys have the ability to pick a place and stay at a place forever if they really want to. And for some of these guys, that's what they want to do. Bryce Harper, who it's been well documented his clash with the commissioner Rob Manfred when they came in talking about a salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of those guys. He picked Philadelphia after his time in Washington was up, and
Mm-hmm.
he's been there forever, and he's loved the city, and he's still got plenty of years left on his deal. Similar deal with Trey Turner. Like, these guys have that option. And it's a certain level of stability that you can't really get anywhere else in professional sports, is the control that these guys have over these contracts that they're signing.
Yeah, and to your point about Philadelphia, there are cities, Boston being one of them, Philadelphia being another one. I'm not sold on the Mets, but we'll go there for a moment. The Yankees are another one. Dodgers. To an extent, the Padres are getting there to that point. The Giants used to be there. I don't know where the hell they are now. St. Louis. At times, the Cubs, although not recently. Cincinnati, these are all good baseball towns.
Mm-hmm.
And they're towns where players like to play because the city backs them and they love them. And yeah, sure, Philadelphia's a tough place when you're losing. I'm not. I was very encouraged to see that the Eagles plane was cleared for landing in Philadelphia last night, as opposed to sending them to Delaware
Mm-hmm.
after that loss. But you know, they will yell at their players and scream at their players. But if you go into the vet or anywhere, not the vet, I'm sorry, the bank or anywhere, and start yelling against them, you better be ready to fight, because
Mm-hmm.
Philly fans are, you know, they're allowed to yell at their players, but you're not. And I think what Bryce, sold Bryce on it, and Trey. I mean, these are two of my favorite players. Um, was the basically the lunchbox mentality that the
Mm-hmm.
fans, they just want to come and watch and enjoy, and and love baseball, and Philly's been that way forever. I mean, they've always had a fan base. Cincinnati, who just made the playoffs last year for the first time in a long time, from the Big Red Machine days of the '70s. Uh, I mean, it's a culture. They love baseball. They love baseball in St. Louis, which might be the most polite baseball town in the world, because they'll, if somebody on the opposing team does something great, they'll stand up and give them a shout. Um, but there are towns, which used to be Pittsburgh, one of them, Kansas City, one of them, that, just singling out those two. There are more, but just singling out those two. And Atlanta has always been a good baseball town. Um, but fans will only put up with so much. And, you can't ask fans to pay ridiculous prices and not get a good product. So to your point about the baseball, what do they do salary cap wise? That I want to see a floor. I want to see somebody say, you know what? You must, as an owner, spend X amount of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of the damn, you know, um, luxury tax, and just say, no, no, no. I'm not going to start. I'm not. The Dodgers are not going to give the Pirates money, because the Pirates aren't spending it on their players.
Yeah.
So I don't care if the Pirates lose, you know, $100 million a year. I don't care, because they're not spending that money.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to have a ceiling, you got to have a floor. And I truly do not believe that the owners are ready to do that yet, and they
No.
may never be able to ready to do it.
No. I mean, we're not going to have baseball, and it's not going to be because of the Dodgers and the way they spend. It's going to be because of that group of owners down there at the bottom. Your Colorado Rockies, your Pittsburgh Pirates, used to be Tampa Bay. Hopefully the change in ownership is going to change that. But there's a collection of teams, the Oakland Athletics, that just have not shown a willingness to spend. Um, you know, I think sometimes it's interesting. I don't know if these are PR moves, like just for the fan base, because sometimes they do this and they don't back it up by doing anything else. But like I remember when the Rays made a big offer to Aaron Judge, the
Mhm.
Pirates made the exact same offer to Kyle Schwarber that the
Right.
Phillies did. I think if Pittsburgh was honest, they knew that Kyle Schwarber wasn't going to come to Pittsburgh for that money. They knew that they were probably going to have to blow that number out of the water, and even then, there's a chance that he wouldn't come to Pittsburgh. So, is is there showing a willingness to spend actually them showing a willingness to spend, or is it a bit more of a PR move to try and take a little bit of heat off their back in terms of the spending? Because they make these
Well,
like these reports come out
yeah.
and then they don't back it up with spending later.
Oftentimes, it's a twofold thing, right? It's a public relations move, but it's a public relations move based on the fact that an agent who is friends with, either a general manager or or ownership or whatever, needs somebody to be the Trojan horse and bid up the process. I remember that when the Nationals first were purchased by the Lerner family, after 1 year of in Washington being owned by Major League Baseball, that Mark Teixeira at the time was the hot commodity, and the Nationals actually bid up, and they won. I mean, Teixeira was from Severna Park, which is basically, for those of you who don't know, is basically between Baltimore and Washington, and and he would have been basically a hometown hero. That being said, he wanted to play for the Yankees. The Yankees paid him money, which probably was more than they wanted to pay, in large part because the Lerner family, getting a relationship with Scott Boras, bid him up. Now, the following year, the Nationals went out and signed uh, one of five different Boras kind of players who aren't there anymore. But anyway, they went out. They got some Boras players. They set records in spending for Bryce as a play, out of college, and then Steven Strasburg before that. So, at the end of the day, this is a dance between PR and agents who want to, make the other teams who want their client to go above whatever that particular number is. I can guarantee you that, as you just chronicled about Schwarber, um, he wanted to be in Philadelphia. There's no, and at 150 for 5 years, that's a reasonable deal. You know,
Mhm.
it's not $700 million for a guy who isn't the greatest outfielder in the world, but you know, and again, no shade on Soto, but it's what the market will bear. If the fool's willing to pay $700 million for a player, that's the market. But at this point in time, we don't have anything that is an incentive for the teams like the Pirates and even Cincinnati and some of these other clubs that you've mentioned to do anything what they're doing right now, which is pocketing a sizable chunk of cash.
Mhm. I did find it interesting. Some of the reporting coming out of the general manager meetings
Mm-hmm.
and the owner meetings was that now everybody kind of feels like they don't have a lot of money to spend. Like it was never really talked about going into the off season,
Mm-hmm.
but the Red Sox came out of those meetings, and now they have a limit of where they feel like they can spend. Um, Before they don't want to get into that second luxury tax. And I thought it was telling about how imminent that lockout is, because
Mm-hmm.
that signal of a lot of these places feeling like they can't spend or feeling like they don't have the money to spend,
Mm-hmm.
is pretty telling on the odds of that happening, I thought. And I think it's going to be interesting to play out in terms of some of these guys looking for the bigger deals, is how much money is going to get doled out this offseason, who's going
Right.
to get traded. It they made mention. I was listening to something. If you've got a guy under 27 team control, like if he's under control for 26 and 27,
Uh-huh.
that's a guy that you want to offload this offseason if you're going to get the full return for him. Because if you go into next offseason trying to trade a guy that's got one more year of team control, being 2027, there's not value for him. Like as valuable as he may have been a year ago, that value is now diminished because you don't know how much baseball you're getting in 2027. So the market's going to move, I think, a lot more different than it has in years past. Honestly, the way things have started, probably a little bit quicker than the way things have in the past so far. And I think outside factors have a lot to do with that.
I think we're going to see a lot more short-term contracts.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because the talk around Pete Alonso, because he seems to be the big name that's coming up after Schwarber has signed. He was a big name that was coming up before Schwarber had signed as well, with his market being pretty hot and pretty active. And they're not giving Pete Alonso 5-year deals. It seems like they may be giving him 4-year deals, but five's just not on the table from everything that I've read that's been reported about Alonso, which I find very interesting in terms of what we were talking about, the way the market's going to move. If a guy like Pete Alonso can't get 5 years, who is going to get 5 years? Is it Bo Bichette and Kyle Tucker, and that's it? I don't know.
It may not even be those guys, because at this point in time, we still have a television contract to be negotiated.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an unknown there, and I can remember in 1994, before the season, they literally the day before the season opened, I was doing a show called The Power Brokers for the Tribune Company, and we did an interview with Don Fear, who was the head of the Players Association, and at the time, the man in charge of negotiating for Major League Baseball. At that time, he was not the commissioner, but Rob Manfred. And Fear said, "Well, I believe that they'll blink, that the owners won't shut this thing down." And that was one interview. I go to the next interview, and it's Rob, and he said, "Oh, absolutely, we shut it down. We may even shut it down before the All-Star break." And I said, "Well, okay, let's play this out. You shut it down at the All-Star break. Are you going to blow up the series?" He goes, "If need be, we will." So the owners were dead set on, it was going to be done the way the owners wanted it to be done, or there wasn't going to be baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And, we all got in the train and went up to Camden Yards and watched opening day up there. And, as we know, history being what it is, that 1994 was the strike. And ironically, the strike was broken by a judge in the lower district of Manhattan by the name of Sonia Sotomayor, which happened to be one of her last cases before she was, elevated to the bench of the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, don't ever underestimate. And here we are in such a way where baseball is on the upswing, right? So,
Yeah.
Here we are on the upswing, and what's going to happen? I mean, in 94, okay, the Montreal Expos were about 2 weeks away from having a stadium deal done in downtown Montreal that would have made everybody with the Expos happy, and Montreal would still have a baseball team.
Mm-hmm.
When the strike went down, suddenly there wasn't an urgency to build that baseball stadium.
Yeah.
And that tumbled, into other areas of baseball. And it took what was it? It took to Sammy Sosa and McGuire's, home run in the later in the 90s before fans even began to start coming back to baseball.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much. It feels like there is a lot of forward momentum with baseball. You know, it, it feels weird to say, but having a villain like the Dodgers, like for all we've talked about,
Mm-hmm.
having one common like rooting disinterest
Mm-hmm.
is actually kind of good for a sport in a
Sure.
lot of ways. Because like when I think about, really when the NBA was last at like its peak, it was because the Warriors and the Cavs were playing every single year.
Mm-hmm.
Those were two teams that for as much as people probably wanted to see something else, like I don't know if they wanted to see the Cavs get out of there or the Warriors get out of there, but people wanted to see something different. And so it was almost must see TV because you kind of wanted to watch them lose. I think there's a similar kind of momentum building towards the Dodgers as well, where you kind of want to see anybody but win. I mean, heck, I'm a guy who roots for the Red Sox. The Blue Jays are in the AL East. A rival of the Red Sox. I would have preferred to see the Blue Jays win the World Series personally. Like that's what this stuff does in a lot of ways. And it creates a lot more eyeballs on the sport overall. And they have this forward momentum going. It feels like they've done a really good job. A lot of their content now, they've got a lot more younger content creators through guys like Jared Carabas and
Mm-hmm.
all of the what is it, the John Boy Network. No matter how you feel about them,
Right.
the John Boy Network of people also kind of tap into a younger audience. So they've done a really good job of, to be honest with you, something that golf is trying to do right now and tapping into a younger audience, and they're at risk of throwing it all away.
Yeah. I mean, you can't alienate fans. It just doesn't work. Uh, Especially when you're looking at people who may have contracts that are, you know, well beyond the grasp or in some regards even estimation of what would it be like to make that much money.
Mm-hmm.
When you've got a player walking up to the plate who makes more for that single at bat than about 70% of the fans in the stadium, it's hard to feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you have to look at the ownership, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which, for the most part, not everybody, but for the most part, these stadiums are built with public funds. And
Yeah.
so the where's the owners losing money if they've got deals that basically the rent they pay is, comes back to them fourfold because it's cheap rent.
Mm-hmm.
And again, these are subsidies. I don't baseball has the antitrust situation. If they took the antitrust situation away from baseball, they'd be screwed because then the owners would have to be accountable.
Yeah.
Right now, if I spend, if you if most of these stadiums are being paid for in a joint venture, deal, right? But look at the amount of money that Cobb County and Gwinnett County invested in the Braves. And I'm not just picking them out. It's just that they built what they call a baseball city, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the template that everybody wants to do. Now, it's great, but that investment had a significant chunk of both private, but also a significant chunk of public cash.
Yeah.
So you're telling me, I'm sorry, I own the team. I'm not going to field a baseball, team this year because, we can't agree on these kind of things. Okay, so what's that do to the restaurant people who have restaurants near the ballparks, and the people who work in the ballparks, the vendors and the and all the ancillary businesses around that area? It puts them in peril for 6-7 months.
Yeah.
So it goes beyond just what happens in the boardrooms. It goes, to all of us who have a rooting interest. I mean, from my standpoint, back in the day in '94, that cost me a season of work. I mean, I directed other things, but you pencil in 200 days out of your schedule for baseball,
Hmm.
and if it ain't there, you got crews from coast to coast ain't doing nothing because there ain't no baseball to do.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, that's where we're headed. So, is there anything now that can stop it? Would be
I
my
don't
question.
know. I don't think that there's cooler heads, and that's the problem.
I think you're right on that. I really don't see a world where somebody's going to get out of the way and just like kind of take a step back and go like, "Hey guys, let's look at what we're about to do here. Like, let's look at this. Obviously, we've all got the money in our pockets that we care about, which a lot of the owners care about more than the team, which is it's fine. It's an investment for a lot of these people, um, but at what point do you realize that while you may feel like the answer long term for the best health of your investment is to go down this route and get a salary cap, but if it kills all public interest that you have in your sport, then it very well may not be.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you, you know, is this the hill you want to die on?
Hmm.
It's. I think one of the things that other leagues learned from the 1994 baseball strike is we don't want to do that.
Yeah, and I mean clearly baseball didn't learn. So
No, and you would hope they would, but part of this goes to the fact that owners don't want to spend money.
yep.
Enough of them, I should say. Not everybody, but like you said in the opening, I don't begrudge the Dodgers anything
No.
because regardless of how much money you pay, you still have to win.
Hmm. Yeah.
And deferred payment contracts is basically how the entire world works.
Yep.
So why would it not be the way that sports world works?
Yeah. I do think like maybe there's a way that you like tweak with some of the deferred contracts. Like I think Shohei Otani making $3 million a year may
Mhm.
be a bit of a stretch as the way as to how deferred contracts are supposed to work.
Mhm.
But that's like the most glaring example, and it's the one that really most people point to when they talk about the Dodgers. There's a lot of other stuff that plays into it. So there's
That's what Shohei wanted.
yeah. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, there's
So it's not like the Dodgers held a gun to his head and said, "Shohei, here's the deal."
yeah.
He
Um,
literally brought the deal to them.
yeah. So there is that aspect of it. They there's there's coming reckoning, I guess, is the most succinct way to put it. So just enjoy baseball while you have it, and enjoy this off season while you have it, because I would assume that the hot stove is probably going to be a little bit cooler come this time next year.
It may be cooler this time this year.
Yeah,
Uh,
that is
you know,
possible.
we're about to find out. Let's see. Let's jump over here real quick. Talk a little bit about football. Um, did you see what Eli not Dirkowitz had was having a little fun with Notre Dame this morning on public. He was on radio, and Eli said that he and his team were excited to go to the Gator Bowl to play Virginia on December 27th. He said, "I guess people say anytime, anywhere, unless some people don't want to play anybody anywhere." Uh,
Hmm.
so a little tweaking of the folks at Notre Dame, who in fairness, as you pointed out yesterday, they weren't the only ones
Hmm.
that didn't do it, but most of the other ones were people who had coaching issues.
Yeah,
Um,
coaching overturn.
right.
Potentially, they've already sent their teams home.
Yeah.
Um, is a real possibility for
Well,
some
and
of
then there's guys who are going to get ready for the portal, and there's, I mean, the schedule has screwed everything up. So,
yeah, yeah. There's reasons why for those 5 and 7 football teams why they didn't accept invites. Um, for Notre Dame, and this is less about the team itself now. I'm more talking about this is what I've seen from a lot of fans on Twitter. I, did they make the national championship last year and all of a sudden return back to the Lou Holtz days, like where they just are like dominating year in year out? Uh, they made the national title in 2012 and got embarrassed, and after that,
mhm.
up until last year, they didn't really make a whole lot of noise. Yeah, they've made the playoff before, but then they got shellacked in that thing too. I mean, the whole thing around Notre Dame was how they can't win the big games there for a while, and all of a sudden, according to their fans, they are back to being God's gift of football. Um, which I I've made the argument. I've written articles. I've talked about it in its entirety. I think that Notre Dame got a stiff deal all the way through. Um,
Mhm.
and then I back it up by saying I don't have a problem with the choice overall, but the way that it was handled, Notre Dame got a stiff deal. But you guys aren't God's gift to football. You guys like the Golden Dome doesn't carry as much weight as it once did. Yeah, you got your own TV contract, but you get outrated by like every SEC game and then half of the Big Ten most of the time. It feels like it's not like you guys are just going out there killing numbers every year. They talk about how they travel. You know, the one picture that I'll always remember is that stadium in 2017 being full of red when Georgia came to visit. Like other teams come to visit Notre Dame Stadium, if it's a big enough program, Notre Dame Stadium isn't Notre Dame Stadium anymore. So I would just say probably get off their high horse a little bit and remember what you have been. What you are right now is still really good. Are you probably the first example of a team in the 12-team format that could have won the national title and got left out? Yeah, probably. But for as bad as I feel for those players in there, I simply for the fans, I would say win the games next time and quit complaining. Like that was my whole thing with Miami. I was like, when I was making the case for Miami, and people were like, well, why is Miami not in? Why is Texas not in? You have to win the football games put ahead of you. So they didn't win either of the two of they were 1-3 in legitimate football games this year. And that being USC, Texas A&M, and Miami. They went 1-3. The margins were close. I get that, but you lost head to head against the team they put ahead of you. It's
Mhm.
hard to find a lot of fault in Notre Dame being one spot behind Miami when there's a head to head result, no matter how you view football and where these teams have progressed. Those games have to matter. And they did. So, I would just say probably slow your roll on those Notre Dame fans. They've been driving me crazy online.
Um, I felt that Jim Phillips yesterday, you know, made a. I mean, of course Notre Dame was bitching and moaning about how Miami got in above them and how why didn't the ACC, um, why didn't the ACC help them get into the playoffs?
Mm-hmm.
And Phillips goes, just want to remind the folks in Notre Dame, we don't make a dime off their football.
Yeah.
And they, by the way, according and he put a number up there. I can't remember exactly what the number was, but his number was, this is how much we pay them as a member for basketball and all the Olympic sports. So we pay them money and they don't pay us a dime. You know, they make money with us in the conference, but they don't make television money. I mean, as you at the point there, they don't get a dime of the NBC money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what exactly, how I'm supposed to help you get into the playoff ahead of one of the teams who I actually receive money from?
Mm-hmm.
On what world does that make sense?
And Also, there's a lot to do about them joining a conference. Like, what would joining a conference have done for Notre Dame, really? Like, Duke was in the ACC and they won the ACC title.
Mm-hmm.
What good did being in the ACC do Duke this year? None. They won the conference title. Good for them. They'll be going to a bowl game. They're not in the playoff. What good did being in a conference do BYU, a former independent,
Mm-hmm.
now that they're in the Big 12? Nothing. They lost twice. They lost in that conference championship game convincingly, and that moved them completely out of the playoff discussion. So the extra game in the conference championship argument isn't really to be had there. But if you're the ACC, like, is Notre Dame just got their head like stuck in the ground in terms of the way things go? Like, I understand you have a partnership with the ACC, and I think it was always going to come out this way, regardless of result. That Notre Dame, actually, no, not regardless of result. If Notre Dame made the playoff over Miami, I don't
Mm-hmm.
think you would have heard an ill word out of the ACC about Notre Dame making it in over
But
Miami.
Jim Phillips wouldn't have said a word.
But you've got this effectively private entity in Notre Dame in football who gets a seat at the table like they are a conference, and they just expect preferential treatment from everybody. The committee didn't give it to you this time. That's tough. I guess what I would say is play a better first half in Miami Gardens, Florida, week 1, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't have this problem. So, or here, I got a better one. Close the door on Texas A&M when you got a 2-possession lead on them at home. That'll do it as well. You didn't do either of those things. So, for as much as I liked the team overall, I really like Jeremiah Love. I think he honestly should probably get the Heisman Trophy of the candidates, which is a different discussion. But for as much as there is to like about Notre Dame, man, the people around the program sure do stink right now.
Well, it's it does reek of entitlement.
Mm-hmm.
We're Notre Dame, so you need to help us get what we want. Well, you know what? If it's a one-sided relationship, I'm pretty sure that's not in the best interest of anybody.
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame's been operating on what's almost effectively a parasitic relationship with the ACC, and then the second that it became a little more equal, they're
Mm-hmm.
like, why are you taking from us now? It's like, you've been taking from us for how long? And the second that we, don't really but kind of hurt you, now you're upset. I don't know. It
Well,
just
think
seems
about it. I
like,
mean, at the end of the day, all they ask of them is they play 5 games against the opponents.
mm-hmm,
That's it. That's all they ask of them. And that doesn't mean 5 home games for where the ACC can actually even pick up a little cash off the deal.
yeah,
That means they could have 3 of them. Basically, 3 of those games could be at Notre Dame,
mm-hmm,
and 2 of them on the road.
yeah. So
And by the way, here's the funny part: if you didn't want to play in the conference, right? Why'd you sign a 30-year deal with Clemson?
mm-hmm. Or here's another one. If you're so upset at the ACC, why'd you go running to the ACC in 2020 to save your football team?
Right.
That's something that did happen. You guys were not going to play football in 2020, and you ran to the ACC and was basically like help us. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
have to be a part of a conference this year, and they allowed you in. They just have seemingly forgot everything that the ACC's done for them on their side of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's one of those things where you just sit back and go, I don't understand it. But you know, it, we're going to talk to Jack Healy a little later in the week, and Jack, who handles the bowl situation, will tell us indeed if there is a future for bowls coming up, and will the whole situation of how life is nowadays really be something we can look forward to, or something we're in trouble with.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on for a few minutes over to the National Football League. Uh, it's last night's game with the Eagles and the Chargers was a bit of a rock fight until all of a sudden, the final quarter of the game when the Chargers were able to mount, what ended up in being a comeback and one of the few drives they had the entire game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jim, I'll toss this out there because I thought it was kind of funny.
Sure.
Entering last night, personal thing here. In my fantasy matchup, I was down 10 points. The guy had Jalen Hurts waiting to play, and I had Cameron Dicker, the Chargers kicker, waiting to play. I won that matchup because Cameron Dicker put up 20 points, went 5 of 5 on field goals, and 1 of 1 on extra points. And Jalen Hurts put up like 0.4 points. I came back and won my matchup. I thought that was hilarious that I came back with a kicker against a quarterback. In terms of that game, something has to change for the Eagles on offense. I don't know what it is. At this point, it feels like it's something you can't change mid-season. They are where they are right now because of their defense, not because of their offense. Saquon Barkley isn't the same version of himself last year. I don't know what's going on in their passing game, but it is bland, it is vanilla, and it is not working. I don't know if it's Jalen Hurts' fault. I don't know if it's the offensive coordinator's fault. I don't know if his timing's off with his receivers. I don't know if it's the offensive line's fault. But something has gone wrong. And at this point, it feels like something they can't save in the middle of the season.
No. You look at it, and I mean, Jalen Hurts has the ability, right?
Mm-hmm.
You wonder if these guys are running the wrong routes. I mean, 3 or 4 times, 2 of those picks that he had last night, the 2 receivers were within 2 yards of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And those were tipped passes because hell, there were so many people clustered in that one area. It's like, of course somebody's either going to catch it or it's going to get tipped.
Yeah.
What, you have 4 interceptions last night?
It was something like that. They
had 5 turnovers, 4 picks, and 1 fumble.
I mean, heck, he got credited with 2 turnovers on one play because he threw a pick.
Right.
They forced a fumble. He picked it up, and then he fumbled it back to him.
Right.
So he got credited with 2 of them. It's like
on one play. That's not an easy thing to do.
It just feels like a summation of what the Eagles' offense has been this year, which it just hasn't been good. They really have. That defense has been like a saving grace in a lot of ways for oh God, why am I just blanking on his name? The head coach, Nick Sirianni. Yeah, like it's an interesting cycle that Sirianni goes through because this isn't a new cycle. This is the same cycle that we saw before. In 23, in 22, they made it to the Super Bowl. They lost to the Chiefs last second, heartbreaking fashion. They lost both of their coordinators. They came out the next year, and their offense stunk. It was bad. And then they went back into the offseason. They made some changes at the coordinator positions. And last year they went on a run and they won the Super Bowl. Well, guess what? They lost both of their coordinators again, I think. I know they lost Kellen Moore. I think they lost their defensive coordinator as well. And now you're back in the same boat that you were back in 2023, where you just came off a Super Bowl looking to repeat, and you just don't have the offense to do it right now.
No, they don't, and they don't look like they're gonna find it.
No, it would be incredibly difficult for the Eagles to find a way to turn around what this offense has been thus far in the season. I just don't know how you do it because it's not a simple fix. Like there's multiple facets of this offense that are going wrong for it to look like this on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm. It's there's no way you can there's no easy fix here.
Mm-mm.
And now you've got them in a pickle. You've got the same situation in Kansas City. You've got a Kansas City team that you know, they either look old or they just can't seem to get out of their own way.
Yeah,
And yeah, they got guys hurt. I understand, but everybody else got guys hurt too.
yeah. It is interesting in the Kansas City case. It looked like they kind of like they were in the process of figuring it out when they got their receivers back and Rasheed
Hmm.
Rice and
Yeah.
Xavier Worthy,
Yep.
and then it just kind of stopped. I don't really know what happened. That offense looked like it was getting better when those guys came back,
Hmm.
and then it just stopped getting better. Uh, I mean, Patrick Mahomes just has not played very well. I know that sometimes he's not getting help from his receivers, but at a certain point, we do have to have some accountability for the quarterback. I know he's been fantastic throughout his career, but that doesn't make you immune to criticism because he
Hmm.
hasn't played well up until this point. So, it's going to start at the quarterback position. They've got problems. Their defense isn't as good as it's been, um, in past years, and they can't really run the football that well for that offense.
Hmm.
So they're one dimensional, and Patrick Mahomes isn't playing like Superman, and now they're losing football games. And I do think it's funny. I think part of it is the luck's just not going their way this year. Like last year, you look at the results that they had and the way they won some of those football games.
Hmm.
Everybody just kind of was sitting around waiting, like, man, they're getting kind of lucky. Is this luck going to run out? It didn't run out until they made it to the Super Bowl. The luck ran out a lot earlier this year. It feels like.
Yeah. I mean, they opened last season. We all remember with the toe tap that they cost the Ravens a touchdown and gave Kansas City a win.
Hmm.
Uh, so I mean, yeah, there's no question that we're looking at a team here um, that doesn't look as if that they can meet the expectations of what the people continue to say, well, we can't count the Chiefs out. Well, I get it. Okay, they've been counted out before and they came back before, but there's going to be a time when the Chiefs aren't coming back,
Hmm.
and this might just be that season.
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, this is just it's almost mind-boggling, but it also is very funny because there are a lot of people who started rooting for the Chiefs right when they got good,
Hmm.
and you're figuring out who it is, whether that be online or wherever. Like you're figuring out who the fair weather Chiefs fans were that just kind of hitched their wagon to
Hmm.
that train. Because man, there are people that are just like losing their minds, calling for Andy Reid to be fired. Travis Kelsey needs to retire. This, that, and the other. They need to go like a full overhaul on the offensive line. Some of that stuff may be true. That offensive line isn't very good. Um,
Well, that's where they've had injuries.
hmm But but you know it it's honestly been fun because they were very swaggy and very cocky throughout
Hmm.
that entire run. This was the better than the Patriots dynasty if they had just won that Super Bowl, and now look where they are.
Yeah, but in fairness, everything runs its course, and you know, Andy Reid has done a masterful job
Mm-hmm.
in creating, a winning team in Kansas City. But this is the old "what have you done for me lately" situation,
Yep.
where if we don't win the Super Bowl, then we had a terrible year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 31 other teams understand what it's like not to win a Super Bowl.
Yep.
And, you just can't count on this happening year in and year out. I mean, it's the Patriots had their time, Steelers before that, the Cowboys before that, so I mean they run in cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And, at this time we don't know at this juncture who that's going to be, but there are some new teams at the top of these rankings. New from a standpoint of new to this type of playoff situation, especially in the AFC where it looks like the best teams are out west. Um, with regard to the NFC, it looks like most of them are in the Central.
Mhm.
But we'll just have to find out how it all works out. A little fun fact today: Philip Rivers is working out with the Indianapolis Colts. Um, if Philip Rivers were to return to the Colts, two things would be interesting. One, he'd be the first grandfather to actually play for the National Football in the National Football League. And secondly, he would then not be eligible for Hall of Fame consideration. And he made the semifinals this year for another 5 years.
Mhm.
I,
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I think Philip Rivers can walk off of 5 years off of be 5 years off of a NFL team and get back into playing shape that quickly. I don't. I don't know how bad the situation they've got terrible. They've got Anthony Richardson's gone. Of course, they lost their starter last week. Um,
Mhm.
they've got a rookie who hasn't taken a snap yet in the National Football League is their quarterbacks for right now, and they're working out Philip Rivers and maybe one or two other guys. But I don't know. Philip Rivers, the grandfather quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, you want to talk about a team that you gotta feel bad for. The way the injury luck has broken for the Indianapolis Colts
Mm-hmm.
lately, that's stinks because they've been a team that feels like they're a quarterback away in terms of the way they built that roster for a few years now. And Daniel Jones surprisingly was the answer. Never in a million years did I think I'd be saying that, but he was the answer for the Colts for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And now he suffered the injuries, and now they're back to really just kind of trying to piece it together on what is still a really good talent roster, but now they're missing the most important.
Part of the roster. They've got their issues at this point. Um, we have a little issue with Matt's mic here for a second. Um, and we'll see if we can get that arranged real quick. We'll go down the standings in the East um, of the AFC. The Patriots are 11-2, followed by the Bills at 9-4. Um, then we've got the
Good
Dolphins at
position in
six and
football.
seven, and the Jets at 3-10. Um, we didn't get a chance to hear Matt your last statement. And he'll be back in just a second. Let me go back to the standings, division standings. In the North, the Steelers at 7-6, followed by the Ravens at 6-7. Bengals at 4-9, so that's pretty much ending the Bengals' hopes. Um, we go to the South. The Jags are ahead of Texans by a game, 9-4. Texans 8-5. Colts 8-5, and the Titans are 2-11. Out west, it's the Broncos 11-2. Chargers 9-4. They got that win last night. 6-7 are the Chiefs. 2-11 are the Raiders. Over in the National Conference in the East, it's the Eagles 8-5, leading the Cowboys who are 6-6. Commanders 3-10. Giants 2-11. Packers in this NFC North at 9-3, half game ahead of the Bears, who are 9-4. Lions 8-5. Vikings 5-8. In the South, it's the Buccaneers and the Panthers tied at the moment at 7-6. Falcons 4-9. Saints 3-10. Out west, it's the Rams 10-3. Tied with the Seahawks 10-3. The Niners at 9-4, and the Cardinals bring up the west of the NFC with 3-10 record. So we didn't get to hear your last comment, Matt. So if you want to bring it back, we'll be happy to hear it. Okay. Having some trouble with Matt's microphone. All right. Tell you what, gang. It's been a lot of fun. Wait a minute. Let me put him back in. There you go. Sorry there, Matt.
Hey,
I was just saying
can you hear me
we
now?
missed your last comment.
Yeah,
So
I don't know what my computer just lost its mind. No, I said you got to feel bad for an organization that feels like they've been really close, like a quarterback away for a while. You
mhm.
have the guy at the position being Daniel Jones, and then injuries have happened now, and now you're left scrambling at the quarterback position. I mean, Riley Leonard, um, for all intents and purposes, was a pure
Having a little trouble again there. You're getting your mic's getting crushed, everybody. Wait a little bit longer. And we'll see what's going on here with Matthew. There he's back. Okay. There you go. Let's try it again.
Yeah, I'm on my phone now. I think I might just have to sell the computer at this rate.
Or throw it out the window, one of the two.
Yeah, or throw it out the window. I was like, as I was saying, the culture now left scrambling at the quarterback position. Obviously, it's never ideal to have to bring a guy in like Philip Rivers
Mm-hmm.
to work him out. It's just they were on a really really special run overall, and now they're really left with nothing to show for this season in all likelihood.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I would like to believe in Riley Leonard because he was a winner in college. He just
Mm-hmm.
was. He won at Duke. He won at Notre Dame. Um, so the talent of Riley Leonard is not something that I'm going to sit here and deny or say that it can't work out. But expecting that in a rookie season when he isn't 100% healthy is a tall ask.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely is, and at this point in time, I'm not so sure that that's the kind of thing you're gonna be able to pull off.
Yeah.
It's you're asking people to do things that actually they're just not capable of at this point in time.
Yeah. So.
So there you go. Any final thoughts before we get out of here on a cold here on the East Coast um, Tuesday afternoon?
Uh, yeah. I want to make a statement more about the Heisman Trophy as a whole.
Huh?
This year is going to be very telling to see if the Heisman voters are hypocritical or not. Last year, I think we can all look at the numbers and understand that
Mm-hmm.
that if it's in the form of a most valuable player, that Ashton Genty was a lot more valuable because in terms of his team success than Travis Hunter was. Um, in terms of what he did. But what Travis Hunter did was he was defined by the criteria of the Heisman Trophy as it was more outstanding. Nothing Fernando Mendoza or Julian Sayin have done this year has been outstanding. They have been the quarterback on the two best teams in the country, and they've operated the offense as they've been asked. They put up gaudy numbers to in a kind of Diego Pavia has more passing yards than Mendoza does, but
Mm-hmm.
Mendoza's rushing numbers have been very good this year. But they've put up some pretty good numbers, but it's not what they have. What they've done hasn't been outstanding. What Jeremiah Love and Diego Pavia have both done have been outstanding in terms of the plays that they make and what Pavia did for Vanderbilt, turning that place into a 10-win program, and what Jeremiah Love did on a Saturday in Saturday out basis in terms of when the football was in his hands. Those two were the most outstanding players in college football. The other two are the two best quarterbacks on the two best teams in the country. So, pick and choose as you will. But if this is an MVP award, then yeah, give it to one of those quarterbacks because that's technically what they would be in the eyes of the NFL. But if you're going for outstanding, Pavia and Love have a lot better argument than either of those two guys do.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's going to be. I don't know. I've gotten to the point where I've kind of jaded on that entire um, Heisman situation. It just doesn't seem to feel right to me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's they've given away the award to a number of different people over the years, and that's fine. That's the New York Athletic Club's deal. But there's the Johnny Unitas Award, which goes to the best quarterback. There's the award, the number of other awards that go out where I think they really pay attention to it. I'm not so sure that the New York Athletic Association pays attention to anybody who isn't a star player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, Mendoza is the odds-on favorite, and there's a reason for that. So, it feels like they are very much a social media driven kind of an award now in a lot of ways. And so we'll see if that rings true this year. It's one that feels a lot less valuable than it used to, if I'm being honest.
Hmm. Well, I think it's been tarnished over the years. I do.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the players that have won that award have not lived up to the hype.
Yeah, no.
So
Like
you
like
know.
I like I talked about last year is like Travis Hunter's numbers weren't
Mhm.
outstanding in any fashion, but what he did on both sides of the ball was what carried the day in terms of winning that award. So
Yeah, I don't have any trouble with Travis. I mean,
yeah,
he he played on both sides of the ball, and he played exemplary on both sides of the ball.
hmm
But that's a once in a generation player.
yep, yeah. But the just tossing it to the best quarterbacks on the best team is definitely something that changes the view of a lot of people in terms of the validity of that award.
Well, I mean, you know, I know that he doesn't need my help, but Pavia, if you can't take away from the fact that what he did at Vanderbilt, to me, outweighs what happened, in South in at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have an Ohio State football team around him. He had
No.
Vanderbilt's football team around
Yep. And that's what like these guys are 1 to 2 wins of difference away. And I'm still of the belief, and if you don't believe me, go ask Caleb Downs who played in the league,
him.
that the SEC in terms of its middle tier, the
Hmm.
physicality, that's what we're talking about. We're not saying these teams are better. We're saying they're
Right.
more physical. Week in and week out, they are more physical football teams. It is a tougher league to grind through the entirety of the schedule on. And to do it at Vanderbilt and to win 10 games at Vanderbilt is a lot more outstanding than winning 12 games at Ohio State and losing a Big Ten title.
Hmm.
And to be honest with you, with the roster that Indiana has, it's more impressive than winning 13 games at Indiana right now.
Hmm. And look, I mean, I knew for a fact that he would never get um, recognition, but Byron Brown, who quarterbacked USF,
Mm-hmm.
had a 3,000-yard passing season, a 1,000-yard rushing season.
Yep.
So is he going to get an award? No. Is he going to play in the NFL? Well, we'll see. But if you're talking about strictly college, you know, there's got to be some recognition that a guy does something of quality,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of. I mean, Ashton Gentry, last year was in there, and he played in the P5 conference, and
Yep.
we'll see. But no, it's the Heisman is less, you know, of to me, less than it used to be, and it seems to be getting worse from a standpoint year in year out.
Yeah.
But you know, it's of value to ESPN and the people that win. We'll see four guys in New York, one of the four will get the award, and it's programming, on a Saturday night for ESPN.
Yeah, I mean they changed it up this year. The Army Navy game used to kind of stand alone, and then
Right.
you had it backed up by the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Well, now we got a bowl game before Army Navy, and the Heisman Trophy ceremony is going to be the pregame show for an 8 p.m. bowl game in LA.
Mm-hmm.
So that's more that fun ESPN just trying to funnel stuff in. It it, I don't think anybody's upset with more football or necessarily having football on Saturday, but it feels like they're kind of taking away from that Army Navy game and that Heisman Trophy ceremony, and making the Heisman Trophy. To be honest with you, it when you turn that ceremony into something of a pregame show, it makes it feel more diminished as well. Like it adds to that
Yeah.
factor of it.
Well, I'm going to be at Army Navy this weekend, and it's an outstanding game to watch.
Hmm.
To the pageantry of it, and then the quality of the teams have gotten better. I mean, Navy and Army have, the last couple of years have really upped the game, uh,
Hmm.
and played pretty amazing football. So you see two teams play pretty much the same style. But that being said, it should be an entertaining game. And as for the rest of the slate on Saturday, this will be the last one before we begin to start seeing the NFL back on Saturdays.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, the bowl schedule is about to creep in, and we've got, well, no, next weekend will be the college football playoffs on Saturday.
right,
Yeah, so you'll have next Saturday as well, but after that, then we switch to the
yeah,
NFL.
we go back to the pros for a couple weeks before the season ends.
Hmm.
All right, speaking of ending, it's about time we do, and it's been fun, guys. Thanks for showing up. We're right now looking at 427 folks who are still with us. We greatly appreciate you doing that, guys. And we're going to be back tomorrow. We'll figure out, uh, by that time, we may find out some more baseball news, and we definitely will have football to talk about. So, anyway, until then, guys, thanks to all of you for joining us. Thanks to Matt for joining us. And I'm Jim. We'll be back tomorrow. Take care, everybody.